back, you guys, and we want to welcome you guys back to the greatest version of you. And as you guys have seen in our podcast and all of our episodes, we're here just to share stories, kind of all of us learning from each other and being able to hear what's going on in the world. And I have someone here today that, whether he likes it or not, I've been a part of his world for a very long time. So I want to welcome my baby brother, Brian Hawkins.
Thank you for
I'm
having
sure
me.
he loves that I introduce him as my baby brother.
I mean, I've been married for almost 16 years. I've been called a lot worse than baby brother, so I can handle that.
That's
I'm all right
probably
with that.
true.
Yeah.
That's probably true. But I have been amazed watching Brian the last few years, not only build a huge presence on social media, but kind of transition his whole focus on, and not just business as well, but connecting with people, getting a message out there about this tiny home movement that he's been a huge part of. And I'm so excited about it. Like, the more I learn about it, and obviously I'm a follower on social media too. I keep trying to get him to send me to these little huts in like Fiji or something. That'd be
all
great.
over the place.
So far it hasn't happened, but we'll make it happen.
Yes.
But I want to hear, and I think everybody at home, because we did a little collaboration on Instagram, and I had a ton of people asking, hey, how do I get more information on tiny homes and shipping containers? And I think the best place to start is just tell us how you got started in all of this.
Oh man, tiny homes is a really popular topic right now. People love just scrolling through, whether it's Instagram or Facebook or Twitter, looking at tiny homes because they're really unique, small spaces. The average tiny home is a little over 300 square feet. Tiny homes in particular are usually classified as 400 square feet or less.
Wow.
So imagine living with your family in 400 square feet or less.
That's hard to imagine.
It's hard to imagine sometimes for a lot of people, right?
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
I have 4 kids. It would be really hard to fit my entire family of 6 in a tiny home.
Yeah.
But there are people all over the world that have been living in tiny spaces for hundreds of years.
That's impressive.
But here in the United States, we're just now kind of getting into this movement of, I'm not so worried about the size of my home as opposed to what I get to do in my free time.
Yeah.
So just kind of having a place to live, cook meals, take care of everybody, but really we want to experience life in general.
It's still those rotten Americans ruining the world, is what you're saying.
We're really good at doing that,
we
right?
are actually pretty good at it.
So I was lucky enough at kind of a young age to, for example, at 16, I got to go to Spain on a Spanish class trip.
Right.
My English is really good.
Yeah. It's
We could just do it in Spanish.
Muy bueno. Muy bueno.
Muy bueno. Muy bueno.
Wait, do it with your Barcelona accent.
Bueno, no puedo hacerlo así porque no tengo la
Gotcha.
La feta. La feta.
Barcelona. Yes. It'd be like saying Cincinnati.
Right.
Like it just,
Cincinnati.
Yes.
Or Mississippi? Oh, no, that's not.
That's right.
So it's
Trevor's got it down.
it's a Z is pronounced as a TH or
Okay.
a C followed by an I or E.
Yeah.
So like the C in Barcelona is Barcelona.
That's awesome.
I can't do it any other way. Like that's how I learned Spanish, so I'm kind of stuck with that now. But yeah, it's I was lucky enough to see at kind of a young age how other people lived and how having a 4,000 square foot home was not the norm.
Right.
Like
It's not.
that's not normal anywhere. There's no
It's not.
space for that. Here over the last probably the last 15 years, the tiny house movement has really existed. But over the last 5, it's really gained a lot of momentum, going from what most people thought was a fad and something that just kind of looked cool online to a legitimate, affordable housing option for people all over the country.
And why do you think that is? Do you think it's just the affordable housing, or are you seeing different reasons for making that transition?
The 2 biggest reasons I've seen aren't affordable housing. So the biggest is from an environmental impact. So your carbon footprint, right?
Right.
People are very conscious now from an environmental standpoint of how they're using their time, what effect they have on the earth in general. So the amount of electricity you're using, the materials themselves to build your home with, are they considered green? What type of insulation are you using? Is it bad for the environment? That is the biggest factor for tiny homes that I've seen right now in the United States, is people that want to have a more of an environmental impact. The other is from a financial standpoint, they don't want to be locked into a 30-year mortgage.
Right.
They don't know where they're going to be 5 years from now, let alone 30 years from now. And everyone is transitioning from, your typical, this is where I'm going to work for the next 50 years and then I'm going to retire and that's it. People want to be able to travel as they work.
Yeah.
And having a tiny home, especially one on wheels, gives you that option. No matter where you are, you can work from no matter where you are. As long as you have an internet connection, you're golden. Whether it's your phone or your laptop, you're sitting pretty. So those are the two biggest reasons I've seen for why people want to transition to a smaller home, a tiny home.
So explain the difference between an option for an RV and an option for a tiny home. Because I think a lot of people look at those two and they're like, well, RVs have been around forever. And not recognizing what the difference actually is.
There are some differences there. RVs are great. They serve their purpose, right? You jump in them, you take off for the weekend. Yeah. Perfect. They're just not built to be lived in full time. There's a lot of people that do. Mm-hmm. You're not legally supposed to, but there's a lot of people that do that because it's there. It makes sense. It's a bed. You can take off with it. A typical tiny home on wheels is stick-built just like your residential home would be, whether it's in Utah, in Canada, in Mexico, in Florida, wherever, right? Yeah. So if you're building a home, it just happens to be permanently affixed and attached to a trailer. But it's still stick-built with the same materials, 2x4s, 2x6s. It's not going down a product line of throwing a very thin 1x2 together. So you have your R values for your insulation just like you do in your residential home. You have the same amenities that you do for your bathroom, your living room, your kitchen. They're just built very differently, and they have a different purpose. Your tiny home, even though most people have it on wheels for their tiny home, they don't move it that often. Yeah. RVs are obviously permanently affixed to a chassis as well, so they're moved all the time, but they're just not meant to be lived in full time.
Yeah. Well, and for anybody that's walked through those, and I have, there's a huge difference in quality. I mean, you literally feel like you're in a home in those tiny homes. And I think a lot of people are utilizing that indoor-outdoor space with that too. Yeah. And I'm blown away at what you guys are actually doing with storage, because for someone that likes things,
gotta have stuff.
Gotta have stuff. Like where do you put it all? So it's almost like a puzzle. Somebody master crafted this puzzle on where to put. Everything is very thoughtfully laid out.
It's not easy to do.
No.
My favorite part about building a custom tiny home for someone is they come to you with an idea of, all right, so I need 2 loft spaces, I need a certain size fridge, I need a range, whatever their necessities are.
Yeah.
I always tell people, put a list together of what you know you cannot live without. After you've completed that, then come up with a list of, all right, on a day-to-day basis, I don't need this, or I don't need this size of TV, I don't need this video game, I don't need whatever it is in the house, right?
Yeah.
I might only use my blender once every 2 weeks, or I might only use this toaster once every couple of weeks. I don't even need a microwave, whatever it is. Come up with your necessities and then move from there, because most people think they're going to take everything they have in their 2,000 square foot home and fit it in 300 square feet.
Yeah, that doesn't work.
It does not work. It just does not work.
Round peg in a square hole.
The laws of science are still applicable, even with tiny homes. But finding ways to store things and have them be multifunctional. One of my favorite is a closet from a company called Ori Living that is an entertainment center. It is a closet and it's a desk.
Oh, okay.
So it expands from 2 feet deep to 4.5 feet deep, and all of your clothes are on the inside of that space. So it's on a small track system that would slide from, it's going to be shorter than this whole table.
Right.
So it'll slide from here out to here, and then you have a walk-in closet in your tiny home, while the entertainment center and the desk is around this side of it.
Okay.
So there are so many ways that you can use everything, at least for 2 different things.
Yeah.
Because when it comes to clothes, storing all of your clothes, you don't have mud rooms, you don't have all those kind of things, right? If you're living in Utah, you need a place for winter boots or skis or any outdoor equipment.
It's true.
So having storage on the inside and on the outside for deep storage is very vital for a tiny home.
Well, and obviously people are making a conscious choice to downsize their life, not just space. I mean, they're like, I only need these clothes. I mean, think about it. I'm the worst. Like, I love clothes, and I have a closet full of them.
Sure.
But on a daily basis, I probably wear the same things over. I mean, every mom knows this. Like, when your 7-year-old looks at you and is like, Mom, didn't you wear that yesterday? And I'm like, don't worry about it. It's clean.
You don't ask questions. Right?
Don't worry about it. Like, so just making the conscious choice to conserve and be smarter, and obviously financially, that would make a huge difference.
It is definitely a mindset. People will decide, all right, what do I really want to get out of this? If I'm going to spend, let's say, $100,000 on a home, which is, nobody can buy a house for $100,000, right?
Yeah.
Let's say I only want to spend $100,000 on a home, and it's going to be 400 square feet. Mm-hmm. What can I fit in that space from a day-to-day basis on the clothes I wear, the shoes, socks? Where do I put that? How many can I have? Most people pare down to 2 or 3 pairs of shoes, 5 or 6 pairs of socks, and their favorite 4 or 5 outfits, and that's it. Everything else, even if you have a storage unit somewhere, you can definitely do that.
Yeah.
But on a day-to-day basis, it really helps you understand what you need versus what you want or what is convenient.
Well, and I was even reading an article the other day, and I can't remember what magazine it was, but these executives and CEOs who are making the decision they basically wear a uniform to work every day. Like they literally have the same outfit that they wear every single day. They bought 3 or 4 pairs of the same outfit.
Yeah.
But they were talking about how they have figured out how to prioritize their time, their life, their finances, one of which, of course, financially, it makes great sense. But 2, the amount of time that we put into what am I going to wear and having them just shop for things and then trying to put these outfits together. I mean, the idea of you just have a uniform that you wear every single day, I mean, it's actually kind of brilliant.
It works. It definitely
Could you do that, Trevor?
I was like,
I want to talk.
I was wanting to say something, then I saw Brian going for it. No, I was just gonna say, it's very relatable in the whole context of becoming the greatest version of you as well, right? Because, I mean, I love seeing that this is so popular because it shows that us as Americans are finally shifting the focus from consumerism and realizing that the most important things in life don't have, they're not stuff, they're relationships, it's the time. And so it's not just the space and all the stuff, but also like taking care of all of that, like you were saying, Becky, and then the debt, of like kind of keeping up with the Joneses. And it's so refreshing to see kind of a flip, where it's popular now to minimize your life. And so when you're working with people, my question would be like, have you seen people or heard people tell you, that their quality of life is a little bit better, or maybe their focus on what's important has changed, or anything like that?
Sure.
Most everybody I've built a tiny home for has had that exact statement. The reason they're doing this is because they've either shifted their mindset to go toward that, to want to be much more of a minimalistic style, just their life in general. This is not
I
just want to, I'm not doing this because it's hip or it's trendy or anything else, right? They're doing this because they want to make a difference in their own lives and for their kids or for the next generation.
Right.
Setting that example, like our examples were everybody wants to have a 10,000 square foot house. Like that was what everybody wanted growing up, right? Was the bigger the house, the better. And now people are understanding, as baby boomers are retiring, for example, I don't want to take care of the yard. I don't want to take care of the house. I don't do any of that stuff. I just want to be able to travel around, maybe see my kids that are spread out all over the country, or I want to see sites I never got to see. Mm-hmm. Those are the regrets that people have, and we're starting to learn from that and saying, I don't want to have those same regrets. Let's just get rid of all that stuff now, save some money, be more environmentally cautious of how I use my time and what I spend money on, and not be just consumers, right? But live our life very intentionally.
Yeah. We also have this other generation of young people who are coming right out of college with tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt from school. And they can't imagine, okay, I'm $100,000 in debt. I'm not even making money yet. Now I get a job. Now I have to go get a house and live. And it's like, how do you even put those numbers together? I mean, we are setting up this next generation to just fail right off the bat. So I think they're recognizing we've got to go fix what our parents and grandparents have created as far as that debt. Because most of us, and like in our case, we came out of college and we were blessed to have parents that were willing to help with that.
Yeah.
Not my parents, just John's parents.
A lot of people go to college for 7 years, right?
They're called doctors.
They're called doctors. Yeah. No, not in this case. But when we got out of school, John got a great job and we started making money. And so that's when we decided to go into debt. But it's like these young kids are making such better choices financially because out of necessity. They're already learning it the hard way and then recognizing I don't want to put myself in further debt and it's so painful. And then your quality of life, I mean, it just keeps going down from there. There's this thing called being house poor.
Yeah.
That most of us experienced in our 20s and 30s. We came out of school or work and we bought a house and now we can't afford to even put furniture in it. And we can't afford to travel and we can't afford to do all these things. And yeah, that next generation is
And
just being a little
it's
smarter.
addictive too when you know what I mean? When
Yeah.
you start, because it's just like that. It's like, okay, now I've got that space that I got to fill, or, now what are we going to do with
Yeah.
this space,
Yeah.
And
What
it's like,
furniture do I have to go buy to
Yeah.
fit
yeah,
that
and it's
living
like the convo that we were having a while back. It's like, okay, well, when is the end? Like, when is enough?
Yeah.
And you realize when you're just spending your whole life accumulating crap that there is no end to it. It just keeps going and going and going. And so it's so cool to see this movement happening.
Well, and they're doing it from a different perspective, because some people get to a place where they've made enough money they can buy all those things, which is fine. I'm not knocking anybody that
Sure.
can. And
Right.
obviously it's smarter if you just pay for those things. I mean, I was even reading some financial studies about until you're $1 million liquid, you shouldn't even buy a brand new car. Like, it should be, because you're just throwing money
Yes,
out the
depreciating
door.
asset,
It is.
right?
It's depreciating. So you're still financing it at that point. And then after you do that, then you just pay cash for cars. And I mean, there's this whole scenario of just recognizing what you're doing with your finances. So seeing these tiny homes and shipping containers, and the evolution of, we thought that was the American dream, was having 2 acres and a 10,000 square foot house, and it's just so over the top that nobody's using it. I mean, we have families here in
Yeah.
Utah that are huge, like probably bigger than a lot of families at other places.
Probably a little bit, yeah.
And the houses are enormous, partly because there's basements and everything. But even our home, I find, because right now, I mean, our kids are grown except for our little one at 7, and nobody even goes downstairs. Like, we have this whole house downstairs, and nobody goes down there except to go to the pool or the backyard. Like, it's this whole useless space. And I'm not saying I'm moving into a tiny home yet, but
I know that's what I was going to say.
So
I'm like,
close.
I'm
So close.
advocating
So
this
close.
so much,
Brian's
but
like,
not
sold.
to the point of actually getting in one.
No, but I can see how that happens. You get to a place where it's just less maintenance, and you want that freedom, and you want those experiences, and then you just want to make better choices for the planet as well. Like, we've all done enough to, again, consume,
Yeah.
and it does. It feels like a way to give back.
There are definitely days where I would love to just live in a tiny home out in the middle of nowhere,
Yeah.
never see another human being again, right? Just completely off grid. Like, I got my own little space and I'll live off the land. There are a lot of different uses for tiny homes.
Is that every man's dream, by the way?
Yeah, pretty much. I'm
Is
like,
it?
yeah,
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
that's-
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Just
Okay.
that's pretty normal.
disappear off the
Interesting.
grid.
Yeah. Most women, it's different, but go ahead.
Yeah. Don't tell me there's not days that you don't wish that.
No,
you
we
know,
wish
your
he'd
husband is out
disappear,
about
but there's
that, right?
usually
Yeah.
like a cabana boy and a drink and a pool.
Yeah, there's somebody
involved.
else there,
So,
right?
Yeah.
No, for
Yeah,
a guy,
no, the
it's
wish is
more
the
just-
same. She wants
Yeah.
the men to go out into the woods and
I
be off the grid.
Yes.
Oh, maybe it is the
You
same.
guys go.
It's the
You guys
same
go
dream.
there.
Oh, yeah,
We're
yeah.
aligned.
I'll have other men come. Yeah. You do that. But tiny homes are used for a lot more than just full-time living. Rental spaces have become an enormous market.
Yeah, absolutely. Airbnbs.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So having, whether they're
Yeah.
a tiny home on wheels, on a foundation, shipping container homes, even SIP homes that are just structurally insulated panels, there are a lot of uses for those small spaces, because an average size hotel room in the United States is 300 square feet.
Yeah.
Same size as a tiny home.
Wow.
Big difference is you don't have to go share a wall with anybody else. Nobody wants to experience going into a hotel anymore. People want to have their own experience of, all right, this is where I'm
Right.
staying. It's a tiny home. It's cool. It's trendy. Instagram loves it, right? Like, everybody's going to love this picture, right? But it also is about the experience you're getting outside of that small space.
I think that's it, though. It really is the experience. That's what everybody is kind of basing their travel, their
Yeah.
life, their career, their Instagram. Everything is over experience.
But that's one of the reasons I think tiny homes have become so trendy and so popular, is because of things like Instagram, for example.
Yeah.
Whereas, 20 years ago, nobody would have known that there's a group of 50 tiny homes sitting outside of Zion National Park
Yeah.
that you can go rent,
Yeah.
right? Like, I would have never known that growing up in Bakersfield. I didn't know that existed. But now everyone has the opportunity to have that information at their fingertips, to check in online, to do everything
Yeah.
else, and to go get their own pictures and experiences at those places. Tiny homes have completely revolutionized Airbnb in that whole experience,
Of course.
because they allow people to live in that small space for a short period of time, experience it themselves, and then see if it's something that they like or not.
Yeah. And even those that are like in my spot, where I can't imagine being like in a closed space with my entire family for
Sure.
more than a couple days. I love my family. Just
I love
putting that
everyone.
out there.
I love you
Love
all.
you all.
Right. Yep.
Love you.
That's,
Adore you.
Yeah,
Don't
that's
wanna
why
be
you don't want to be in that
close
space.
to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But to do that. But I can see how, again, we would love to have that experience. Go to Moab, go to Bear Lake, go to Yellowstone, go to all these places and have that experience. To me, it's like living out a childhood Swiss Family Robinson dream.
Yeah.
You know, you see, because who as a child saw that movie and didn't want to live in a treehouse?
Absolutely.
Everyone
Yes.
did. And every tiny home that I've been seeing, especially like on your social media feed, there's a piece of that. Like there's a piece of a dream and but still a luxury and an experience and everything wrapped into one. And because we're all trying to escape something when we travel, like when we are actually trying to escape something. And I again was reading a different article about this, the psychology of traveling and how most people, they used to have more of an euphoric effect before their vacation and after their vacation. And on the vacation, they were just so consumed with getting things done and making things happen and having experiences that the real benefit came before, like the excitement of it, and the benefit came after. Whereas people are now realizing we need to be living in that moment. And I think this is a great way to be able to do that. So whether it's travel, but there's also a place where everybody wants to have a second home. They want to have an escape. They want to have a retreat, someplace to go to. And I can't think of a better way to affordably do that.
Oh, absolutely.
You know?
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, you could
Before
even
it was the idea of a big cabin somewhere,
Yeah.
or a giant houseboat or something like that. It was like almost inconceivable. But now with the tiny home, it like makes it a reality for people.
It is.
I mean, it's kind of a big statement, but it is the new American dream.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is to have a small piece of what is your own. Because getting something that is your own from a
You
property
don't
standpoint
own
right
anybody
now
else.
is really hard to
It
do.
is hard.
I mean, like what you were talking about earlier
Yeah.
with kids coming out of school with $100,000 in debt. I have several in-laws
Yeah.
that have gone through medical school and are all doctors, and they're going to be making 100 to 200 grand a year, but it's still going to take them 5 years to pay off their student loans.
Yeah, at least.
I mean, it's insane that is what everyone has been pushed to,
Right.
because you want to be a homeowner. That was always a dream. Now with a tiny home, you can be a homeowner much sooner, have your own space, and still have the experiences that matter most to you without having to give up your entire next 10 years worth of income to do so.
So explain to everybody why where the hiccups are. Like why are, because I feel like the evolution of it is happening so fast, but the city and county and state laws and, HOAs and everything, they're not catching up.
Yeah.
And so how do we advance that part of it?
Zoning is always a question. I think cities are starting to come along because they're seeing that they're built to a code. It's kind of been the Wild West over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
There was not a standard
It's like, what
to
do we
which
do
they were
with
always
this?
built to which they were always built to. How did you differentiate between the guy that just built one in his backyard on a trailer that could literally fall off the trailer as you're cruising down the freeway to someone that's licensed and bonded and insured as a home builder to do this? Who's
Right.
qualified to build them?
Right.
That's been the big question over the last 5 years. They're finally starting to get over that hump
Yeah.
with some certifications, with an ANSI 1195 certification, IRC and ICC codes that are built to those, and they're adopting those. But it takes 3 years to adopt a new code.
That's crazy.
So every 3 years, right now in Utah, for example, each state gets to decide if they adopt that code. So right now, there's still a lot that we're doing that's from the 2015 code. We haven't
Yeah.
even adopted everything for
For
2018.
2015.
Yeah.
Wow.
So when it comes to tiny homes, when you try to get everything written in, it's fantastic. It's a lot of work. You go through legislation, all that kind of fun stuff. And then you hope the state will pass it and say, now that it's passed, we'll adopt it.
But people have to be doing this on a state level.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So it will vary city to city. Every city has the opportunity to say whether we allow that or whether we want that on wheels, if that's zoned to be here or not.
Yeah.
In Utah in particular, we're over 40,000 homes shy of where we need to be for someone to be able to afford
That's
a 2-bedroom apartment.
crazy.
By affordability for that, what the state goes off of is a typical 40-hour work week. So somebody working minimum wage 40 hours a week would have to work 95 hours a week to afford a 2-bedroom apartment in Salt Lake right now. There's just no other way to do it.
And
that
legally,
doesn't
they
exist.
can't work 95
no,
hours.
you can't do it.
An
And even
employer gets in trouble it doesn't even make sense.
the system is broken when it comes to
Yeah.
that. So from an affordable housing standpoint, a lot of people have turned to those tiny homes, and that is why cities are really getting on board, in my opinion, is they have finally figured out the writing on the wall that they don't have a choice.
Yeah.
There are so many people that don't have a place to live
Yeah.
that need they're doing everything they possibly can just to be able to afford a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, and it's not there.
Yeah.
That apartment's going for $1,500 a month.
That's insane. My son JJ, when he was going to school in California, we rented a 2-bedroom apartment down in Orange County, and right across the hall was somebody in a 3-bedroom apartment, and every day somebody like new would come out, and we're like, wait, how many people live here? And we realized there were 3 different couples living there.
Dang.
And they were all sharing a common space, the kitchen and the living room, but they all had their own bedrooms. But that's how they could afford it, because it was like $2,200 a month.
Yeah.
For a 2 or 3 bedroom apartment. It's like, how are these people able to live? And we were talking about this. I'd love for you to share some of these numbers. Like, we talk about assistance in the state for people that are homeless, like what it costs the state to actually take care of and regulate a homelessness in a city. And I even look at what they consider poverty level in places like Hawaii.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
I mean, you make, what is it, like under $80,000 a year, and you're considered poverty level in Hawaii?
Yeah.
Like, that is unreal.
I mean, a gallon of milk is $6.
It is. It's
so
a lot.
It's affordable is a very relative term.
It
It's
is.
all dependent upon where you are. So paying $2,200 for an apartment in LA, people in San Francisco would be all over that, right? Like, that's cheap
It's
to
no big
them.
deal.
On average, in Utah, for example, it costs the state an average of a little over $45,000 a year per homeless person to take care of them, from a medical bill standpoint, for paying the police for that, for upkeep on the grounds, for everything, right? The average is a little over $45,000 a year. That is why it was so important for the state itself to come up with the funds to find a way to house people. Beside the fact that it's a humane thing to do. As a society, we need to be able to put people in a place where they can just live.
And be safe.
Yeah,
and
where
have a
you're not in a
foundation
bad
to
situation and
start a
sleeping
life.
outside. Utah's not a great place to sleep outside.
No.
Summer it's 110, winter it's -5. Like, it's not a good place to be
Why
outside.
do we live here?
I don't know.
I don't either.
Every winter
That
I
was
ask
the first
myself
question
that
we
question.
asked
Why do we live
ourselves
here?
when we showed up today. It's like, why are we in Utah?
every winter
And
I
then it
ask
starts
myself.
to storm again, and
Yeah.
we're like, what are we doing
Why
here?
am I still here?
We're just stuck.
Yeah.
know.
If I had a reason to be somewhere else, I would do that. But to this point, we're still good. And that our number in Utah at 45,000 is nothing compared to other places. around
Right.
the
Look at
country.
LA.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Hawaii. Look at these areas. It's
There are a
insane.
lot of cities and counties and states that are trying to find a way to get over that. In Utah, for example, we just built 3 new centers that are for the homeless that are more than just beds and kitchens, but they're also job assistance and living assistance and trying to get you transitioned from where you are now to where you want to be.
Right.
But that still costs $15 to $20 million per building, right? That houses 300 to 400 people.
I mean, how many tiny homes can you buy for $15 million?
A lot.
I mean, you're talking, and again, it kind of is frustrating knowing that you could take those tax dollars and actually make better decisions with them and be able to do that, which is why it's going to have to take private funding. It's going to have to take independent contractors. It's not everybody looking to whether government or cultures or religions or charities, they're not doing it. It's not happening.
Yeah, and I'm not going to rely on the government to fix that problem.
No.
By any means.
Fix any problem?
Yeah, I'm not going to go down that road. I just
If I could just get them to shut off all the telemarketers calling me 10 times a day, like I would, if I could put everybody that's worried about impeachment stuff in a room and be like, hey, here's what I care about. Get these telemarketers to stop calling me 10 times a day.
Yep.
Like, then let's worry about impeaching people. Like, let's get back to important stuff. That's the important stuff, you guys.
All the important stuff in my life. That's
Stop
it.
calling me 10
Yes.
times a day.
I only have so many minutes left on my plan. I can't do that.
When we start bringing up minutes on a plan, we are showing how old we are, for sure.
Yeah, I'm sure there's quite a few people that are under the age of 25 that have no idea what that is.
Yeah.
Why you would ever be limited.
I still have like the flip phone thing down. Like sometimes
Yes.
I miss that, just how cool you were when you took it.
Well, hanging up is the thing. Like Jack Bauer, like when you're ultra pissed, that's the best way to hang up on someone.
There's nothing more rewarding hanging up on somebody and just being like you're out. I'm done.
See, to me, it was always that was like a Batman type thing, like or a Star Trek thing. Like you flip that open,
Oh.
and you kind of go into that deal, right? Then being able to close it. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Bring it back,
half the
Apple.
kids don't
Yes.
even know what Star Trek is either.
Yes.
So I literally had to explain to my kids what a payphone was.
Oh man.
Yeah. I was telling a story to JJ, and this was a few years ago, but I was telling him how when I was 16 and I drove the van, remember the
yeah.
Rascal, the conversion van we had, and it was a beast and it ran out of gas, and I was by myself and I was late to school and I had to push it myself over to the side of the road because I was afraid the car was going to get hit, and how I was so sore. I was like crying and pushing it. And he literally is staring at me with the worst blank look on his face, like, what are you doing? He's like, why didn't you just call your mom on your cell phone? I was like, yeah, I didn't have a cell phone till after you were born, babe. Like,
Didn't exist.
No. And he just looked at me like, did you ride your dinosaur to school then? Like,
Yeah, I mean, the
how did that
Flintstones, that's
happen?
the era I grew up in,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, I said, no, I actually had to go to school, walk to school from there, find a payphone, call my mom. And I can remember the first time my kids got a busy signal on their phone. They're like, my phone's broken. Like, what
my
is
gosh.
this?
I
And
think
you
we
have
were a
to
lot more
explain
punctual
those
back
things.
then, though, too, because like
You
you're
didn't have
not
choice.
waiting.
No.
I mean, like
Yeah.
5-10 minutes, and then it's like, well, I guess they're not
They're
showing.
not coming.
Yeah, I'm out.
I'm
Yeah.
out. Unless
was
you want to
it.
try a collect call on that payphone.
There were a lot of missed dates. And
yeah, exactly.
Oh, collect call. Hey, mom, I'm at the park. Pick me up.
yeah,
Yeah,
collect call.
exactly.
Yeah.
Amazing. Do you know how many times I would collect call and my parents were like, nope, not taking it.
That was
like
why
the
we would
best
do that
rejection.
when you would, like, whether it was with AT&T or I can't remember who else it was, but that collect call,
Yeah,
when they would pick it up and state your name, this is Brian, I'm at the park, pick me up. Like
that was it. Because
yeah.
it was just like a
Yep.
3-second recording.
Yes.
And that was all because they would never accept it. Our
No.
parents.
Why would you?
Yeah.
That had to have
walk
been
home.
a
Parents
major
were
problem
serious.
for the collect sales.
I would imagine they figured
They're
that
going to
out,
crack
right?
down on that
Eventually.
3
Yeah.
seconds.
Yeah. Or you don't even say your name. You're just like, pick me up at the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Who was, what commercial was that for of the, hey, it's Bob, had a baby, it's a boy? That one?
That's a good one too.
Yeah.
But yeah,
perfection.
it's just kind of morphing back in time for sure. But going back to addressing those problems, I think community-wise, that's the only way we're going to see that difference. And I think it needs to be fresh on everyone's minds. One, because the rate of homelessness that we're seeing and experiencing, and it's not, it's very easy for us to like make excuses for seeing those things of what their situation is or
Yeah.
trying to blame them. And it doesn't even matter what the situation is. It's still, again, from a human level, people that are not able to have a home. And I can guarantee you every single one of them want those things. So it's figuring out how to change that.
I think it's finally become more real for people as opposed to assuming that if someone is homeless, they have put themselves in that situation.
Yeah.
People are realizing that as they're graduating college and they can't afford a house, they're
Yeah.
thinking to themselves, I've done everything I'm supposed to have done.
Yeah.
Gone through school, took on the debt I was supposed to take on that's hopefully going to pay off 10, 15 years from now, whatever that
Yeah.
is, and still finding themselves in a very similar situation. And they're finally connecting the dots of, we got to change something.
Yeah.
We can't just keep going down this road. For me, I mean, obviously, we grew up in the same house. I'm the way I see this, the reason I'm so passionate about tiny homes is because I grew up having everything afforded to me, right? Like every opportunity that I could have had, I had.
Right.
I didn't need anything or want for anything. 99% of people don't have that opportunity.
Right.
They have a lot of struggles. They don't have family members to help them get over, whether it's from an emotional standpoint, a physical, a financial standpoint. Tiny homes, for me personally, is an opportunity to bring this movement along, to be able to have a systematic change in people's lives, to just give them that
Absolutely.
chance to have a home.
Yeah.
No matter how small that is, 100 square feet, 400 square feet, whatever, right? It allows me that opportunity. And that's why it's so much of a deal for me personally is I know there are so many millions of people out there suffering through really bad circumstances,
Absolutely.
horrible circumstances.
Beyond their control.
They just need a place to call home.
Yeah. A safe place.
And obviously, tiny homes as rental properties, as investment properties, it's phenomenal. It's
Right.
great. But to me, it really is about providing people the most basic of functions in their life of having a place to lay down at night without having to be afraid of what's going on outside or in the next room or anything else like that.
Yeah.
So that's been my mission and why I've gone crazy hog wild on tiny homes on Instagram and everything else is because, yes, they're great to look at, but at the end of the day, I have an opportunity to make that change.
Yeah.
And there's no reason I'm not going to take it.
Yeah. I don't think I told you the story, but my son JJ, who was in San Francisco with Adam, our friend, who he goes and builds retail stores, and he was out there doing a job with him. And they needed help one day, and so they went out on the streets and found some guys that were willing to just do some hard labor for the day and move some things. And these guys came in, and JJ just started talking to one of these kids, and he was telling him how he'd only been there for like 6 months, and how a year ago he had a job, and he's a college graduate, and he grew up on the East Coast, but his mom died when he was little, and it was just him and his dad. And then his dad got really sick, and they couldn't afford anyone to take care of him, and he had to go part-time with his job just to help take care of his dad. And then his dad passed away, and he couldn't get his full-time job back. And literally within 2 weeks of his dad passing, not being able to get that job, and something happened with his car where it wasn't working anymore, and he couldn't even get to his part-time job anymore. Like, he didn't even have the money to fix a car, to get to the job, and there was nobody else in his life. And that really is a reality for so many people. He had enough money to get a bus ticket to come out where he thought he was going to be working for a friend, and that didn't pan out, and he's been in San Francisco homeless ever since.
Yeah, then you're stuck there.
You're
Like,
stuck. It's
what are
not
you gonna
like
do?
he's going to go anywhere. But it's a reality check how quickly, again, without... sometimes we take this for granted, too, because we have family around us who we know would never allow us to be devastated at that level. But there are so many people that don't have that as well, and they don't have that support, whether it's community or family or friends or whatever it is. And we're just seeing that devastation nationwide.
There's a lot of it, unfortunately. And it's not even just in the United States. I mean, that happens worldwide. And affordable housing is a problem worldwide. As the population continues to rise, as our resources diminish, people need a place to call home.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, in most situations, the way that system is set up, finding what is quote unquote affordable is really hard to do.
So give us a price variance. Like, what are you seeing in the tiny home area right now?
Tiny homes will typically average anywhere from about $40,000 up to about $150,000, depending on whether obviously their size is one thing,
right,
the finished materials and how custom that is. The biggest expense for tiny homes is the off-grid stuff. So if you want to be completely off-grid, literally never talk to another human again, that kind of thing, just out in the middle of nowhere.
Your dream.
Yes, my dream. A solar system is still $15,000 to $20,000 for a tiny home, because not only do you need a solar system, when you're out in the middle of nowhere and you have a solar system, it doesn't work unless you have power.
Right, some sort of generator or something.
Backup power to that, right? So the battery itself, whether it's through Tesla or anybody else, those batteries are a minimum of $5,000 just for the battery. And then you have to have the equipment there. You have to have it installed. Most people are spending almost $15,000 on a tiny home solar system.
Yeah.
To me, the biggest issue with that is the ROI on a solar system. The reason you're usually doing a 20-year power purchase agreement, a 20-year PPA for solar system, is because it takes that long to get the value out of that.
Right.
Now you want that for your tiny home. Great. I love it. I love the idea of being off grid, not depending on anybody else. You're using less than half of the amount of kilowatt hours you're using on your house, which means it's going to take you twice as long to pay off the solar system
as much sense
for the home, right?
Yeah.
If you're out in the middle of nowhere, it makes a lot of sense because you don't have any options. But for people that just think it's cool to have a solar system because it's great for the environment and everything else, that's great. If you have the extra 15 to 20 grand, do it up.
Yeah.
Right? But the average for an off-grid package is almost $20,000. A composting toilet starts at $600. Your average toilet is about $100 to $200, right? So just the toilet itself is 5 to 6 times more expensive.
So completely
just for
off-grid is not necessarily the most economical.
It's not the cheapest way to do it at all. Nope. There are some places that don't have septics put in, don't have electricity pulled there. It's just you don't have a choice. But in your average neighborhood, if you just want to pull that in as an accessory dwelling in somebody's backyard, those kind of things, it's still more expensive to be off-grid to have that option.
That's
but
amazing.
The homes themselves usually $40,000 to $80,000. The average right now for tiny homes on wheels nationwide is about $75,000.
Yeah, $40,000 to $80,000, like that. Again, as cheesy as it sounds, would change the world.
My favorite part about this is because I get people that comment on pictures on Instagram all the time of why in the world would I do that instead of just spending $100,000 on an RV?
Yeah.
Or what's the cost per square foot? That's by far the biggest question, right? Everybody wants to know what the cost is per square foot. On a tiny home, it's like $200 to $300.
Right, per square foot.
Which seems ludicrous, right? Like, you're like, why am I paying $200 to $300 a square foot for a 400 square foot space? Do you know how much the square footage is on an RV?
Mm-mm.
High-end RVs are $1,400 a square foot.
Really?
You go buy a top-end RV at $450,000, mind
Right.
you. They're not cheap, but you spend $450,000 on 200 square feet.
Yeah.
You're spending a lot per square foot, but nobody asks that for an RV. People don't care. They're just like, oh, it's pretty.
Yeah.
It has slide outs. I get my fridge. I get my couch, 9
Right.
TVs, whatever, right? Like that's what I get
The
in my
other
RV.
thing that has ruined people are watching these like flipping homes shows where
Oh, yeah.
they go into Waco, Texas and buy a home for $100,000. And I'm like, okay, there is nowhere in Utah or California
Yeah.
or some of these areas, you're not going to find a home. You can't even buy the property for $100,000. So it's just unreal, to think of where we were 25 years ago, again, to date myself. I mean, John and I bought a 2,400 square foot home in Bakersfield, California. Again, not the most luxurious place in the world,
Love
but
it.
we still love it.
Uh-huh.
It's still home. 2,400 square foot on like a quarter of an acre. And we paid $130,000 for that house. And at the time, it was a stretch. I mean,
Yeah,
I
you're
was
like, this is enormous. How
it
am
was
I going to pay this?
enormous. I was 22, John was 26, and we felt like we had just taken on the world of debt on our
Yeah.
shoulders. So to look at that next generation coming out of school and trying to do the same thing, but with a $450,000 home, I mean, it's just unreal. And we're seeing that. We're seeing condos for $350,000.
Oh man. When my wife and Laura and I got married, we managed a trailer park in Provo. We managed.
I remember.
Yeah, right by the
We
Provo
never
Mall.
made fun of that, by the way.
No.
We
And obviously everybody came and hung out all the time. Everybody
We
loved
did.
being
We
there,
had
yeah.
lots of barbecues.
But we managed a trailer park for a year and a half.
Such snobs.
While I was in school, and we lived in a double wide. Like that was where we lived.
We lived in a trailer when I was.
Oh, yeah.
Like,
Not too far from there. But
No.
when mom and dad were in school,
It wasn't
they
too
lived in the
far from
trailer
there.
park 100 yards away.
Yep.
It was there, right?
yep.
And it wasn't a big deal because we moved. That was our move up, by the way. Like the apartment we moved out of,
It was an upgrade.
this was a huge upgrade. We
Yeah.
went from a 2-bedroom apartment that we were paying $800 a month for
Yeah.
to a 4-bedroom, 2-bathroom double wide that we were like, we're living it up, man.
Yeah.
This is the dream, right? We
Yeah.
get paid to be here to manage the place. I can get to finish school, all that kind of fun stuff. The demographics of who's in your average trailer versus your typical tiny home
Oh, so diverse.
are night and day.
Yeah.
Obviously, there is nothing wrong with manufactured homes, mobile homes, trailer
Right.
parks. We
a great
need
option.
every type of housing that we
Absolutely.
can possibly get. But the demographics are as far left and right as you could get. The average person buying a tiny home qualifies for a $500,000 mortgage.
Yeah.
They just can't find a loan for a tiny home on wheels because it doesn't exist. So they're trying to kind of play that catch-22 of I want to downsize, I want this small space, I want it on wheels, I
Yeah.
want to be able to travel, but there's no standardized lending for tiny homes on wheels.
Which is probably the biggest problem right now.
The biggest by far.
Okay, so I saw you post something. Somebody had found funding in Canada.
Yep.
For tiny homes, and it's still a problem here.
It's still a problem in the
Everybody's-
United States. And this
Why
is just
hasn't somebody done this?
oh my gosh. You tell me.
Right.
The market for tiny homes on wheels from a lending standpoint is well over $100 million a year
Yeah.
in loans. And that's just with the 15 top builders that I would consider top builders in the United States that are licensed and bonded, insured, building in a controlled environment in a factory. They build a quality product. They'll be here 5 years from now, 20 years from now. They're legitimate companies. That's not even the other 50 builders that would join if there was standardized lending
Because
for
banks
tiny
are not
homes.
financing tiny homes.
Yeah.
They're just not.
People are going out and getting RV loans because they have a VIN number. They're permanently affixed
That's
to a chassis.
crazy. You can
It
get
just-
an RV loan,
yeah.
but you can't get a tiny home loan.
Uh-huh.
You can get a home loan for a trailer,
Yes.
but not a tiny home.
Yes.
Yeah. How, again, all of the politics and regulations that have to catch up.
It will happen. It's taken longer than
It's
obviously
just
I
who's
wanted
going to figure it
to.
out first.
The biggest question
Yeah.
for those loans is there's not enough information, right? Like, because the bank wants to know exactly what that note is worth 5-7 years from now,
Right.
right? There's not enough information for them to wrap their heads around that and say, I know exactly what that paper is worth, because if I want to sell that note to somebody else, I can do that.
How's that going to depreciate 5-7 years from now?
If it is like a car or an RV or anything else, no problem whatsoever.
Right.
The crazy thing is with tiny homes, even on wheels, there's no land attached to it. You're not buying land with it. You're just buying that home.
Yeah.
They're still appreciating,
Yeah.
which makes no sense whatsoever. Because the minute you drive a car off the lot, you lose $5 to $10 grand.
But even if the banks had to estimate that depreciation, there's still a way to do it. People
yeah.
are just not they're waiting for someone else to go prove it.
It's the same thing with zoning. Most cities, for example, love the idea. Everybody
Right.
sees them. They see how they're built.
Sounds great.
Love it. Go do it somewhere else. Go show somewhere else that it can be
Go
done.
prove it.
And then bring it back, and then we'll approve it. Financing is going to be the same way.
Yeah.
The builder in Canada found one with what I consider phenomenal terms. They'll do up to a 20-year term, which most people don't need for a tiny home, but
Right.
they'll do up to a 20-year term, 10% down, and anywhere from like 5 to 7% interest. And I have people that are calling, freaking out, saying, why would I ever pay 5% when prime right now is 3.5? I was like, great, go get that loan. Go ahead and go do it.
Yes.
Have fun. They're like, oh, it doesn't exist.
It doesn't exist.
There you go.
The only way you're getting that prime is on a $500,000 home.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which, again, financially does not make sense. How our system is set up, it's kind of like credit. Like, go buy something, you have to be in debt to have
Yeah.
good credit. Like, all of these things that go on in our world that just perpetuate the wrong habits. And I definitely see that happening here. But I love what you're doing, Bri. Like, I love that
Thank
you guys and your team. Like, I've met all of the great business guys around you and women as well that are recognizing this, and they're so passionate about it, which is why I know something great's going to happen, because you can see it in everything that you guys are doing and getting it out there. So I'm so proud of you.
You guys are part of some fun projects.
Yeah.
Looking
We,
through your Instagram, what are a few of your favorites, would you say?
Man, we don't do anything that's normal, right? Like we just
That's what I've seen.
We can't do that
It's
for some
overrated.
reason.
No one's overrated.
So we have a couple different projects that we're working on for Hawaii, for America Samoa, a couple that we're doing here in Utah that are shipping container homes, SIP system homes. So really trying to find a way to systematically bring it in so it's affordable for people. That's really the whole goal, is to make it so that we're homes are never going to be over 200 grand, right? For
Right.
600, 800 square foot apartments, whatever it is, we need to make sure that they're going to be affordable for the people that are going to live there. Ideally, what we would love to do is bring in homes, which containers are perfect because they're just turnkey. Shipping is available worldwide. That infrastructure is in
You
place.
can do it anywhere.
Yeah. Put it on a boat, put it on a truck, put it on a train, whatever it is, you can ship that thing anywhere.
And for those that have never walked through a shipping container home, so Brian has one in his backyard right now. It's kind of his
Yes.
office, open house, like model. It's amazing. And I went thinking, okay, it's going to feel like a metal box. And it does not at all. Like, I was surprised how warm it was. I was surprised how cool the window, like I want those windows in my house, how they open and close, and there's this indoor-outdoor feel. But there's a full-size bathroom. There's a full-size couch. There's a dishwasher. Like
Oh yeah, it's very homey.
it was so great. And I think, again, it just, somebody feeling and seeing and experiencing that tangibly, you just start to break down all these barriers and rules again, which is what got me so excited for you again.
You know, I got to say,
love
another
watching
thing that I love about the tiny home movement is something that I noticed when I was in Bolivia, right? And I see every time, my wife is from Bolivia, and every time we go back, everybody's so tight, like everybody's so close. And, neighborhoods, it's night and day to what you find in America.
Yeah, here you don't meet your neighbors. For
No,
like
you
3
don't
years.
even know who you're living next, like 10 feet away from. It's so crazy. But, it's because most of these people in South America are living in very tiny spaces, right, that aren't so exciting, and there's not a ton of place to just like lounge out. And this forces people to actually get outside of their walls and actually put more value on community, actually meeting your neighbors, see how you can, help and network and all that. And so that's another thing I really like about this is it's kind of forcing us out of our little homemade prisons that we've made for ourselves, so we can contribute so much more to society. We can be much better neighbors. We can network so much more with other people. And I think for me anyway, there's so much more value in that. And that's why when you go to these places where, the houses aren't so extravagant, and they don't have all the stuff, a lot of times you find that they're a lot happier.
They are so much happier.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Less stressed, happier. Priorities are where they're supposed to be. It's so beautiful to see.
And it's a great point, Trevor. Most people that want tiny homes, they want to live in a community of tiny homes.
They do.
They want to be surrounded by like-minded people. You can have a community garden, community, whatever you would like.
We all want to belong
right?
to something.
Yeah, everybody
you,
still
who
wants to be.
live in the middle of nowhere.
I'm less people,
Don't
right?
like
Yeah.
beings.
I'm definitely weird. I'm okay with that.
We love you.
But that is really the goal, is creating that community for a couple of reasons. One, from a mental health standpoint, you want people that are like-minded. It makes sense, right? From an affordability standpoint, you can help your neighbors a little bit more when you're all in that same economical environment.
Yeah.
And then just from a community living standpoint, just networking with them, getting to know people, getting outside of your comfort zone and outside of that standardized box of I go to work, I come home, I'll eat my meal or watch TV or whatever it is, get up, do the same thing the next day. Living in a tiny home community changes that, because you're not just sitting inside all day.
You're not. And I think that's what you're hitting on, is just creating more freedoms in people's lives. Imagine everybody, their home's paid off after a few years, and now you not only financially freedom, but that alleviates all that anxiety and that weight of debt, and how am I going to pay the rent, and what if something happens, and all of those fears that we all have as adults that we want to just throw in the back of our mind and pretend that they're not there. We all carry those every single day, especially when you start having a family and all of those things happen. So I love that whole idea, especially with those shipping containers, because that cookie cutter system of just being able to provide and meet a need overnight, no one in housing has ever been able to do.
That's one of the reasons we wanted to do it. So I was building everything here locally, and we could do one home every 6 to 8 weeks, which isn't bad, but we were never going to meet the need and the demand.
Right.
We had a line out the door from all over the country. We were shipping homes everywhere, but we could never build homes quick enough.
Yeah.
So when I partnered with Richie and TFN and Jace, our team, they were already manufacturing some stuff in China. They had kind of gone down that tiny home road, and they looked at it and they saw it. We met randomly through Instagram, actually.
Yeah.
And I just sent him a note, said, hey, my wife saw your talk at a convention, thought it was awesome. Just wanted to tell you that, that it went well, type of thing.
Yeah.
A couple days later, he shows up in my shop, right? Just like he had sent me a note and just said, hey, I'm going to come by. And I'm like, yeah, sure, man. Come on by. Like thinking I didn't even know who Richie Norton was. Like I had no idea. So in fact, I sent you a text after I met with him. I was just like, is this dude legit? Like he's crazy excited
You're like,
all the time. Is this real? Like, is he actually? And he is. He's just very happy all the time. But
I love how we initially were like, what's wrong with him? He's happy all the time.
I told him, I still tell him
there's got to be something off.
Yeah, I told him, I was like, this isn't normal, man. Like this, and I'm not that person. Like I'm not excited all the time. I'm more somber. So when he came, he was like, hey, we can build a couple hundred homes at a time and manufacture them there. I was like,
how?
Sure, man. Yeah, you go ahead and believe that. I've heard, I don't know how many people tell me that they can do that here. Nobody can do that here.
Yeah.
He's like, no, seriously, like we could build a couple hundred at a time. I was like, and where's this magical fairyland that we're doing this at? He's like, no, it's a couple of factories that we use right now in China for some other stuff that we do. I was like, all right, well, have fun with that and have a nice life, and that'll be that.
Yeah,
he's like, no, just come with, check it out, and if you like it, we'll do something.
So that first meeting, he was like, come to China.
Yeah. 3 weeks later, I was in China.
You were in China.
I was in China, yeah, literally 3. So I never had a desire to go to China or be in China or have something manufactured over there. But I get there, and I start going through this, and it turns into like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like I'm walking through this place like with my mouth just dropped open the entire time. How is this happening?
Yeah.
How have I never heard about this?
How does not everybody know about this?
Why are we not doing this? So at that point, literally within 3 weeks, I meet this group, take a random trip to China, and we start building shipping container homes because they are building 300 brand new containers a day.
That is crazy.
A day out of this one facility, which isn't their only one, but just this one facility.
So where are they sending them all?
Hong Kong, Brazil, all over China. Australia, New Zealand, just all over kind of that South Pacific and Asia.
Yeah.
They're building container homes that are 12, 15 stories high.
Because the government is not trying to overregulate it. It's
because they don't have room.
Right.
You do whatever the heck you got to do as
And
long as it's
saying,
structurally
we need
sound.
to house people.
Yes.
Yeah.
As weird as that is,
Yeah.
they just want to solve the problem.
Yeah.
They don't, as long as it is.
What would that be like?
Oh my gosh.
Solving problems.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I in that exact moment. So when I'm sitting in that factory, and I'm videotaping these containers coming off the line. So they're tack welding and then caulking lines, making sure that they're there. These aren't used containers. They haven't shipped crazy chemicals, any of that stuff, right?
Yeah.
Brand new containers that are built specifically to be homes. So doors and windows are already cut out. You don't have to go back through and frame it with it, any of that stuff. I'm sitting there in that moment, and I'm looking around at these guys, and everybody has their phones out, and everybody's videotaping and taking pictures of how awesome it is, right, to be in this factory. And it hits me of, we can legitimately solve affordable housing around the world, not just in the U.S., not just in Utah, not just in Lehigh, all over the place.
Yeah.
By getting these out there. They don't have to be crazy high-end, a couple $100,000. They could easily be $40,000 and somebody has a home.
Right.
1 or 2 bedroom, 1 bathroom home, 320 square feet, done. How do I not go down this road? So everybody's geeking out. We're all freaking out.
Your heart was like attached
oh
to
my
it at
gosh,
that point.
I was flipping out.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to kind of hold it in at the same time, right? Because we haven't negotiated all the prices and everything else going on, right? But I'm trying not to just completely freak out, running into these guys like this is it, we're done. This is happening. We're doing this. So we leave and we're talking and we're going over floor plans and everything else for the homes. And I look over at Richie, and Richie's videotaping me, of course, because he just videotapes everything. He's in the moment with everything for that. But he's videotaping me, and then finally when he puts the phone down, I'm like, dude, this is everything I hoped I would be able to accomplish in tiny homes.
Yeah.
It's great to have something for Instagram. This is real. This is not I want to do something to show off.
This is not entertainment.
This is for me to become the greatest version of me. For me to become that person, I have to figure out a way to build this home and provide it worldwide.
Yeah.
That was my aha moment while I'm sitting in that factory. And they all agreed. And we decided we're going to do this, and we're going to figure out whatever problem comes at our doorstep by doing this. Let's build one, figure out the supply chain for what we want to look like with MDF or granite countertops or whatever those materials need to be. Let's figure out that supply chain, build it, ship it to my house in Utah. And then we just go berserk, go nuts. And that's where we are right now. We have it sitting here in my backyard, which is just a dream come true.
Yeah.
To kind of fulfill that whole thing. And now the real fun begins of helping cities, counties, countries solve their affordable housing crisis.
Isn't that an amazing feeling, though, to know that dream is in you?
Oh my gosh.
And not just to have, it's frustrating to have that dream and then not have an outlet for it, but to have that dream, then all the right people start to come into your life. Then you start to see solutions and ideas and opportunities of how you're actually going to put that in place. There are very few things that feel better.
Oh man, especially when you don't know that moment's coming. Like it's really hard. You go through all these tough circumstances. Like Trevor and I were talking earlier about how when you're in the middle of the crappiest time in your life, there's you don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. You think you're in this. You think you're in a cave. Like it's all black on one end. And I actually got that from Richie. He's gone through so many hard times in his life of losing family members and losing children and all those kind of things. Then in the moment, it feels like you're in a cave, but really you're just in a tunnel.
You are.
You find your way to the other side of it. There is a light there, even if you can't see it very well when you're in that moment. I had what I consider the toughest day of my life was being let go from a job, coming home, telling Laura that I had been let go, and her being like, "Great, I'm pregnant." How is this possible?
That weight was on your shoulders.
Yeah, I'm like, how do we
physically feel it?
Even just telling her that I had been let go, like that took a lot. Like it took a while. Like it would have been way easier to just kind of like go on pretending I had a job, right? Like than telling her like I'm let go. I don't know what the heck we're gonna do.
Yeah. And
then her response of,
"Great.
Yeah, hey, I'll do you one better.
Yeah.
I'm pregnant and you don't have a job. We don't have any way to support this.
Yeah.
Any of that fun stuff." Those kind of moments were really tough. Like I had no idea how I was going to do that, right?
Yeah.
And even at that time, I had no idea I was going to be building tiny homes. Like I didn't grow up thinking tiny homes. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm going to go to school for. That's it. That's what I'm doing,
I'm
right?
going to change the planet.
But that that really is, for me personally, that is the essence of becoming the greatest version of you. Finding out, not necessarily like what your calling is, but finding out where you can truly add value to people.
Which is your calling.
And I was put in that position by unknowingly growing an Instagram account for tiny homes in the tiny house movement. I had no idea the impact I'd be able to have or the reach I'd be able to have by what to me seems like such a silly thing to just look at pictures of small homes all over the planet, right? And helping other people see that. I had no idea that would be an inspiration for people of what they wanted to see in their own tiny homes or ones they want to go visit. Like it was something that made sense at the time because I was building tiny homes. So let's start that as well.
Yeah.
And I'm just grateful that I've been lucky enough to surround myself with people that have a similar vision and have also given me opportunities I wouldn't have had elsewhere to fulfill that and hopefully have an impact for other people.
Well, and that's exciting that you have all that. But from watching you, I have seen how you have pulled all of that into your life because that dream was there, that passion was there, and you just being open enough to it, it allowed all of those things to now come in. I mean, we've talked about this all the time. The most expensive thing you'll ever own is a closed mind. I mean, had you not gone to China, had you not been open to meeting Richie, had you not been open to walking through a shipping container. It's exactly right. So all of these things start to show that progress of us getting out of our own shells and our box and even our comfort zones to do things, to experience things. And now we're enlightened by those things. And now all of a sudden your whole life changes. And even though we recognize that we're doing something great for the world and for people and affordable housing and everything, which you're solving a huge problem in the world right now. But we all, and I know this too, we from a selfish standpoint, we can't not do it now. Like we've seen the need, we see the potential, we feel it in us, and it becomes a part of us. And I'm just excited for you, Brian. Like watching that whole thing happen, watching it all come together. For everybody watching though, you need to follow him at Tiny House Movement. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Tiny House Movement.
Tiny House Movement on Instagram. They have a website as well. And just be learning as much as you possibly can, because whether this is for you or you're open to it or you're looking for investments or you're wanting to be a part of the solution, I mean, he's growing a network right now, and anything we can do to help further that cause, we want to make sure and do that.
Thanks for coming, Brian.
Thanks for having me, guys. This has been awesome.
And just another lesson, you guys, again, on recognizing that pull in your life. And that's the only way that your passion, your purpose, your drive, all of those things have to come together to become the greatest version of you. So we love you guys. We'll see you next time.